Well, I've really enjoyed learning a lot from the other speakers here, and it's been getting me kind of all excited to get back home and start some new projects and stuff. And so anyway, I thought I would share a little bit of some of my personal experiences and just give some practical, hands-on ideas for you to maybe take home or consider, and to give you an idea of what I do, what I have been doing, is for the past 10 years, I think, I've been pursuing more of a professional goal of doing art, and I'm more in the craft side of art. I haven't tried as much fine art, but anyway, since I was really young, I've wanted to do children's book illustration. So something that we found out to be really helpful early on was using social media. And about 10 years ago, I was 16, and we started, my sister and I started a blog. And that just opened up kind of a new world to us as we were just getting started. So anyway, I wanted to also, the main focus of this talk will be looking at just the idea that as artists, we love to get into the craft of it, and we just love to delight in the process of creating an image and coming up with a concept and finding a project that we really want to invest ourselves in. At the same time, I found out with myself personally, and also with other artists, that as we really love that side of it, there's also the business side of it that's a little bit harder to get into. It takes a completely different side of your brain to wrap your head around and get into it. So anyway, these are some ideas and things that I kind of wished I knew a little bit more of 10 years ago when I started getting into this. So hopefully this will kind of cast a bit of a concrete, maybe not a vision so much as just some practical tips on what you can do to help yourself and your business as you look at what you might want to do with art. So I use, the title of this talk is Artist and Craftsman, Turning Your Passion into Service. And I wanted to use the word craftsman in there because I think it points to the importance of excellence. We have the actual craft, and we have doing the craft really well, which includes the business side, the relationships in business, your even honing in your own skills. So I wanted to start with the idea of the sketchbook, a practical hands-on sketchbook, and also what the sketchbook represents in an artist's life. And so something that I learned early on was that keeping a sketchbook was something that kept me fresh and always interested and delighted in art. And it was, I think, mainly because when you have a sketchbook open, you've got this blank space and all these possibilities in front of you, but you also don't have anyone else and their expectations of what you're going to produce. It's just you and your imagination, and you might have a great concept, or you may not be sure where you're going to go, but this is where you can, without anyone's expectations, just explore. And I would highly encourage you, if anyone doesn't have a sketchbook already, just find something, even if it's cheap or you don't know what paper you like to use, start somewhere simple and try to invest in it every day, just a little doodle. Or one thing that's really helped me is if I'm working on a big project, I will have usually some scrap paper nearby. And I've kind of gotten out of the habit of using an actual sketchbook, and the loose paper thing is becoming an issue, so I need to get a sketchbook back out. But if I'm working on something kind of big that's taking a lot of focus, you start to get into that, I think, that closed way of thinking about your artwork. And so being able to step back every 15 minutes and maybe doodle or work on a smaller, more fun personal project in your sketchbook really helps you loosen up, step away. Also, you want to be able to take this everywhere you go, because you're going to be seeing things, you're going to be getting ideas, and you're going to think, oh, I'll remember that when I get home. Trust me, you won't remember when you get home. You're going to wish that you had taken it down in the moment. Also, keep it beside your bed, so in the middle of the night, as you're, or if you're falling asleep, you have that idea, you want it right there. So also, as you're taking it with you everywhere, you never know who you're going to meet. Sometimes you bump into another professional artist, and you could say, hey, would you take a look at this and maybe give me a critique? I would love to have your opinion on what I need to shore up on. Always always be learning and challenging yourself. The sketchbook, in a way, represents your continual growth as an artist. And so as you're working on projects, you're going to find areas in your work where you're thinking, this is really weak. I'm not sure how to fix this problem that I keep seeing come up in my work. So keeping a sketchbook could represent a place where you will be practicing and learning. There are a lot of ways to learn. When I started off, I would just get books from the library. I wouldn't even read the art instruction. I would just copy out the little examples of the projects they had in the side and just look at the pictures and figure out what they were trying to say. These days, 10 years later, it feels like there's just so many more free and very low-cost opportunities for artists to learn at home. There are, I'm going to be actually sending around a page if you want to add your email address to here in a few minutes. I'm going to be creating a resource list that will have a lot of places and suggestions for where you can learn new skills or and some other things that I'll be touching on later, so that'll be coming up. So yeah, you want to add to it daily. Always be learning. Look to be critiqued by professionals. Record your ideas. And another really good tip that I've learned is you hear sometimes there will be these art challenges online where you say, everybody, let's do 100 drawings over 100 days. And that can be a really fun challenge. But something to keep in mind, though, is that you want to be practicing like an athlete. You don't want to do it just for quantity's sake. You want to practice really well. And so every time you're getting into it, you want to make sure you're not doing it just to spend the time, although that is super important. Time in art can always be used. But my mom found this quote recently that was really great, and it made me think of art and practicing. And it was the idea of practicing like an athlete. It says, so greatness is not achieved when the result is reached, but rather long before that, when an individual chooses to do the things that he knows he needs to do. The athlete becomes great not when she breaks a world record and wins a medal. That's when the world recognizes her. But in reality, the event is just the evidence of her greatness. The athlete achieved greatness months, perhaps years earlier, when she decided to run the extra mile, swim the extra laps, or to perform just one jump more. That's from Brian P. Morgan in the 12-Week Year. So that's something that goes back to the idea of not having anyone else's expectations or pressures as if they're watching you draw. You don't have to worry about that. You can fail and make mistakes, and that will happen often. But it's always just use it as a learning experience. Find those weak points and just keep pressing forward. So the next section that I have here is about sharing your artwork and getting your artwork noticed. When my sister and I first started blogging, it was almost like just the beginning of the golden age of blogging, where we had this close-knit community of bloggers, and there were these just like groups of homeschooling kids that would comment on each other's blogs and stuff, and one of them had a mom who had a magazine for mothers and girls, and so I was putting my art up there knowing that, my friend's mom does this thing, and we were kind of becoming friends with her, and she came by my blog one day and she saw a nature study that I did, and it piqued her interest, and it led to one of my first jobs as an artist. And so we ended up talking a lot with her, and we got some of our first bits of experience working with an editor and a producer. So anyway, there are some really important things to keep in mind as you share your work online. There are so many different ways of doing this. A lot of people will use Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is my most favorite right now. But whatever method you use, always make sure that you do have a website. As you're creating really good art and you're creating your portfolio, you're going to want to have a website so that you can link back to it wherever someone finds your social media profile. They'll be able to click on that link, and you never know who's on the internet looking around at art. publishers and editors are people too, and they blog hop, they look at social media, and they find people that way just randomly. So keep excellence in mind as you do that. Learn how to market your work on the internet as well. I won't give a whole lot of details because it can get really technical, and that's not really the main focus, but the idea is that I'll be adding also resources to ways to learn how to do that. But some of the just main concepts are taking really good clear pictures of your artwork, but also you want to show the process. People love to get the background view of how, like, what materials you're using, how long it took you, how you came up with the idea, maybe even your studio environment and other artists that inspire you. It's also a really friendly thing to do online, to share other people's art and tag them and credit them properly. Make sure that you always credit if you're sharing someone else's work. Another way to get noticed is if you say there are projects in your community. This could be on a small local scale, but sometimes there are endeavors in your community where you could say, hey, I want to be a part of that. I would love to donate my skills and time to help beautify this organization's message, or even just, some part of your town, offer to do a mural, or if there's a company or a business you like, offer to, if you're just getting started, offer your work for free or a very small fee. That's a really great learning experience. Another way that you can build your audience online and get noticed is as you are sharing photos of your art, make sure you do it consistently. Someone says, there's actually a teacher, an illustration teacher on YouTube that I really like. His name is Will Terry, and he gives a lot of really great talks on how illustrators can get started in the field. And he says the internet awards excellence, and so if you're constantly pursuing this craft, doing it well, interacting with people, being friendly and being professional, the internet won't, and you will be you won't go unnoticed. The internet awards excellence. But of course we know that God is ultimately the one who rewards our efforts and wants to bless what's done for him. So another thing is, as you're sharing your work, getting noticed, you'll probably get, of course you're going to get a lot of job offers. Sometimes they'll be really small and you're thinking, oh, I'm really waiting for that big break to come along. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And you want to make sure that you definitely look at, what the project is, who you're really working with, learn about contracts and how to do that well. But know that if it's a small project, you're going to want all that experience. Sometimes in the past I've been kind of picky and thought, well, this isn't my dream job. What if I want, what if something better comes along, and I'll just wait. But that experience is going to catapult you into just more things that you find out that you need to learn and things that you can grow in, and it also will introduce you to new people that you could work with in the future. The third section here that I have is about relationships. People are so important, and I think we all recognize that the friendships that you build through work can be very valuable and even outlast a single job or contract. There was a few years ago when someone had found my artwork online and asked, hey, I would really like to do a book project with you. I was kind of skeptical, but I thought, oh, well, I think this is going to be a really good thing. This could be a really big deal. And it ended up being a really great situation. But I was getting all stressed out, and she started talking about a publisher and talking on the phone with him, and I thought, oh great, talking on a phone with a professional. I don't know if I want to do that. Well, anyway, I finally put my big girl pants on and said, yeah, sure, have him call me. So anyway, this publisher, his name was Dan, he called, and I don't know why I was so nervous. I learned a really valuable lesson. As soon as he started talking with me, he told me that he was moving from one side of the town to the other, and he had plumbing issues in his house, and he was going to meet the plumber, and they had a moving truck doing this or that, and his wife was helping someplace else, and he just really gave me a very casual, friendly look into his life. It was just like, oh, this is a regular guy. It's no big deal. And so we're still friends, and we still keep in contact, and we still want to do projects together because he was a professional, but he also knew that the relationship side was super important. And it's just been a really sweet experience getting to be involved in things with that group. So definitely, as you meet people, also know that sometimes when people say, it's not what you know, it's who you know, sometimes that's very true. People once, and I'm coming from more of a book illustrating, publishing world, but once you meet people in that field, they always know other people and say, hey, once you're in, if you have a project idea, they'll be really curious about what you want to do and may want to give you the freedom to explore, find someone you want to collaborate with. Take them up on that, get to know them, be personable, be friendly. I wouldn't encourage you to be too pushy. I'd say maybe only a few people have actually gotten really good jobs from being stalkers, but they're in the minority. So you're going to want to just be natural, and sometimes you'll click with people, and sometimes you won't, and it will be just a one-time client, and that's a fine thing to do. You really want to be using your skills to bless the other person. It doesn't have to be a long-term friendship, but you can be a shining light in whatever situation you're in. So also remember to encourage the artists around you, because I think as I've grown in arts and have talked with more people, it becomes a much bigger thing than just me and my job that I like to do at home, where I just get to do these delightful little projects. It connects you to so many other people and their projects and their ideas, and just the whole world of just enjoying this craft and serving people with it. So I would highly encourage you to ask questions, ask someone to teach you something. That's been more recent for me, just realizing I don't have all the answers. Maybe I could look at a video on YouTube and find out how to do something, and I don't know who in the world this person is, but they know what they're doing, and you can so easily strike up a conversation with them and learn something new. So this next section is on tools and resources, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this tablet around so you can add your email address too. So, and then also add a little star by your name if you want to be added to my regular email list, where I can send out updates on my business and stuff. So yes, one of the really great resources online are the venues where you can sell your artwork. You can sell originals. People can come to you easily and ask you to. They'll commission you to do, say, portraits. You can do art prints. Currently, I'm doing art prints when I'm not doing illustration work. And these I use Etsy, but I'm also really looking forward to trying out some new sites like Society6 and Redbubble, where you can actually have your artwork put on things like totes and t-shirts and mugs and all kinds of things. So as you come up with really great ideas for art, sometimes I've just found it's really thrilling to find an artist you love that has their artwork on a tote bag, and it's like, that is just the most exciting thing. I feel like I know these people, and now I have a little bit of them in my house or on my wall or something. So definitely I would encourage you to find just creative ways to share your creative projects. It doesn't always have to be two-dimensional art. So I guess that's all I had for that section, but basically there are a lot of websites that teach you how to sell your art online better, how to paint in different mediums, how to use Photoshop. That's something I'm looking forward to getting into, and then I'll probably try to keep people updated on my email list as to how that's going. So we shall see. And I don't know how much time I have left. Okay. Is that how long I've been going? Okay.
It's a countdown.
Okay, so I also wanted to touch on a little bit of what Michael has touched on being a patron of the arts. I know a lot of people here are artists. You can be an artist and a patron. I know there's probably some people who are more in the category of sometimes we don't actually paint, but we want to encourage those who are creative or who are making music, who are sharing their art. And there are just some also really, really simple, easy ways of doing that. You can be as involved as you want, but a really good example of a patron that I've met several people like this is they have collected good quality books, antique books with beautiful illustrations, just beautiful things and artwork in their house, and it's almost like a museum that they've curated for their family and their friends. And I think this is something that anyone can do very easily. I love this idea of, you go into a friend's house and you see that their mom or dad has a painting on the wall that they love, or several, and they invite you to just to look at their library, peruse it, and borrow anything that you want. I've found many really neat books that way, and not just books, but also new illustrators and artists that I can learn from. So if you find yourself more in the patron position, and that's a huge blessing. Something you can do is also learn about social media. We would love people's help in getting the word out about our artwork, because sometimes we don't always have the time or the know-how. So if you know how to do that yourself, you could teach us. You could offer to do it in addition to our efforts. You could also offer to host a house concert, or maybe book a venue and invite the artists to have an art show. Another thing that Michael had mentioned is educating yourself so that you can ask discerning and intelligent questions. Engage us in conversation. We love to talk about arts and culture and all kinds of things like that. And it's just a very, very rich world. And it's just, I don't know, the more I talk with people and the more I realize that I don't know, the more exciting this whole community gets. And so I think, that's most of what I had to say. And I also wanted to leave plenty of time for questions and answers, because if I get too technical up front, I don't want to cut off time for anything else. But anyway, yes, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Jane.
As a Christian, have you ever come across any work that you had to deny, and how did you handle that?
Have I ever come across any artwork or like a job that I've had to turn down? I actually have not had to turn any jobs down based on moral issues yet. But that is something that I did forget to mention, is that as you do experience different jobs, different work environments, different people, you will learn your own strengths and weaknesses, and also your own boundaries. So you will learn when to say, no, this just isn't a project for me. I'd love to help you, but I can't help you there. Yes.
In your experience, then, what is the best reason for a new artist to turn work down?
What is the best reason for a new artist to turn work down?
Or the most common reason that you've turned work down?
The most common reason, because I am in the illustration world, and I think a lot of illustrators get this, they meet a lot of people who write, and we meet a lot of other creative people, and I think I most often turn people down when they have a project that they'd like me to join them in on, but I don't know, it can be kind of awkward, because it can be like a great idea, but also at the same time they're really new to it, and the overhead is a little intimidating, and they might say something like, well, I can't pay you, but I can pay you an experience, and I can get your name out there, but they also don't have a very large social media following themselves, and so it just things that seem a little bit too risky, or they don't have an actual publisher they're working with. But if you do want to do, I know independent publishing is becoming, there are a lot more ways more recently to do it in a quality fashion. And I think if you're educating yourself on how to do that well, and you're able to get the word out well, it can be worth it. It'll be hard work, but sometimes you should just go for it. It can be a great experience. So, yes.
I know that you've got a particular style that you've done very well for years.
Well, thanks.
Do you ever feel like pigeonholed, like people want you to do a particular style and you want to experiment?
Yes.
Or is
Yeah.
that comforting?
Yeah, Matthew's asking about my particular style and if I ever feel pigeonholed by people's expectations for what they expect me to do or what they want me to do. Is that the question? Yeah, for a long time and I feel like I was probably just thinking about it wrong for myself, but having an Etsy shop, I was thinking, okay, this is, I want to do art that people are going to want to buy, and people want to buy wholesome things to put on their walls and say in their homeschool libraries, and so I need to come up with some ideas in this style that they're going to want to buy. What I was kind of forgetting was that I already had my own style, and I could just, I have a few people who just really like to buy my artwork, and I could have made anything and they would have bought it. I didn't have to stress out so much of like, what is the perfect thing to depict? I got a little bit too hung up on that. As I've loosened up and realized people trust my taste, it has, I think, freed me up to explore more and to grow in my aesthetic taste and my skills and not be so concerned as to where it's leading me. So if I used to feel pigeonholed a little bit more, but I think at this point now it's like, I just love learning so much. I'm just going to try to disregard those expectations or just believe that, you know what, people have trusted me for several years now. I think I can start to experiment and they're going to go, let's see what she does next. And I think that's true for most people. So does that answer your question?